What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com. Not so late on a Friday afternoon. I have early evening plans, so I thought I'd jump on here in the 4 o'clock hour Eastern. Was it 4:45 now Eastern? 4:45, most likely in your time in Wisconsin, and see what's up, see what's on your mind, see what's going on. Not a whole heck of a lot going on in Packerland, free agency or draft-wise, but always something to talk about. Jeremiah, hello. Michael, what's up? Prav, thoughts on Harold Landry at 14? Funnily enough, I just got done talking to Ryan Wood about that. Ryan will be doing our outside linebacker preview at PackersNews.com. You got to think he's a definite possibility. Clearly took a step back his last year there in college due to the injury, but his 2016 tape is exciting, and he looks like a difference maker, which is obviously what the Packers need at the outside linebacker spot. So Harold Landry at 14 makes a lot of sense to me. Now, I've seen him slipping in some mocks, and you can't really discern much from that. That's a media perception. You have no idea where NFL teams have him ranked or have had him ranked, but if that was the selection, I think Packer fans should be happy. Will you be going live after every pick next week? Terrence, I think so, at least early on. It gets a little hectic later in the draft, especially when they have multiple picks in a round, but early on in the proceedings, I most definitely will be. Packers are targeting a defensive back, says Alex. So that's a possibility. Really hard to say when they don't know what the people in front of them are going to be doing, the teams in front of them. But I will say, if it comes down to this fact, and this is what I keep kind of turning over in my mind, there's a very good possibility that they won't see a pass rusher available that they think is worthy of the 14th overall pick. And there's also a slight possibility that somebody along the lines of Minkah Fitzpatrick or Derwin James falls to them at 14, which I think is their dream scenario. Because, look, we've talked a lot about the lack of pass rush, the need for an outside linebacker, but they have assets there. They have guys who they need development from, like Vince Beagle and Montrevious Adams. They saw a little bit from Reggie Gilbert last year, and I'm not here to tell you that that's going to magically solve things, but they have stuff that they can work with. When it comes to the defensive backs and they look at the corner position, they have plenty of guys who can play outside, whether they're talking about Kevin King or Tramon Williams. They just signed Devon House back. Those are all perimeter guys. But you start talking about who's going to be playing in the slot, who's going to be blitzing from the slot, who's going to be covering some of those quicker, dart-like slot receivers. I don't see much there. Maybe they can kick Pipkins inside, but even that's a stretch. I think they really need somebody. They need a James. They need a Fitzpatrick. One of those kind of real high-level athletes that can stick with whoever maybe it's a tight end in the slot. They need something there. That's the one kind of big hole that you can really see. And now, like I said, I'm not sitting here telling you that they've taken pass rush off the board, but that the need there is probably a little greater. Adding Mo Wilkerson helps the pass rush? You would hope so. It really depends on which Wilkerson shows up. Marcus Davenport is a media creation, says Steven. Yes and no. I think he's definitely exploded onto the scene because of the media. His name has, anyway. But that doesn't eliminate his upside. It doesn't eliminate his athletic ability, which is all very real. Now, where is he going to be selected? That will be very interesting to see. Let's see. What have you heard about Brandon Marshall? Nothing, Daniel. My hunch is he's most likely will retire. But you never know. You never know. The Packers obviously in the market for an outside receiver, a perimeter receiver. Maybe they want to line him up opposite Devontae Adams. I tend to doubt it, but you can't write it out. Landry better than Davenport? Patrick, I think so as a pure pass rusher, especially right now. Who knows in 3 years, but at this moment, stepping on a NFL football field in the fall, yeah, I would take that bet. Who's looking to take Nelson's place? Good question, Katie. Right now, I would think it would be Geronimo Allison, given who's on hand. But, they could make a signing next week. There's still guys out there in free agency. maybe they make a run at Des Bryant, though I tend to doubt that as well. But more often, more likely than not, they'll probably look to the draft. I think they will look somebody on day 2, most likely, second or third round, and I doubt that whoever that is, steps right into the starting lineup. But you got to think they're going to find somebody. They've got a long history of finding really good wide receivers in the second and third rounds, so I think that continues under Gutekunst. But right now I think it would be Geronimo Allison. Mike, will you be drinking any Wisco Disco while you're in Green Bay? Does the Pope wear a funny hat? Your choice, Landry or James? Whew, man, probably James. Season record prediction? Ask me again in August. In the meantime, make sure you check PackersNews.com for Ryan Wood's season prediction. He goes through every game, gives his reasoning. It's a lot of fun. It's April. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but it's always a fun exercise. What would it take to jump back into the first at 23 or 25? Victor, it really depends on the draft, the dance partner, who they're talking to, and what their needs are. And, probably, I would think a day 2 pick and maybe a late round pick as well. Any chance Rodgers' extension gets done before the draft? Yeah, I guess you'd say there's a chance. I'd make it a really small one. I tend to think, I've been saying it for a long time, I think that gets done probably at the end of the summer, right before training camp. What's going on with Aaron Rodgers? Not much. He's at the offseason program and working out and doing his thing. Pipkins will start at corner. When they signed Devon House, I said there was a good shot that Pipkins beats him out. That's up to Pipkins. He's got the tools. He can do, he can play in the league. But he's got to be consistent, and he's got to show improvement from last year. But the tools are there. And if he comes into camp, roaring to go and shows that he's developing, I think he's got a decent shot. Dennis, where's Dom Capers? I don't know, at home, I guess. I want Edmonds in the first. Dude's going to be special. Mike, I agree he's going to be a special player. I think it's going to be awfully hard for them to land him at 14. I think if they want him, if Gutekunst covets him, he'll probably have to jump up to get him. Odds of a tight end drafted within the first 3 rounds, decent, I would say. Not great, but decent. Is Josh Jones ready? He's going to need to be. I think that's one of the bigger questions on the defensive side of the ball when you're looking at guys making that jump from year 1 to year 2, especially with Morgan Burnett walking. They're going to need him to be. But is he? Only time will answer that, and only he knows how hard he's working. Weeks 8 through 12 are hell, says Alex. Sure, now in April, but that doesn't mean anything once weeks 8 through 12 actually show up. The only thing you really need to worry about are the first few games. After that, teams change a lot, and the way schedules look now, sitting here in April, look totally different by October. It's a fool's errand to try and project what the schedule will look like or how tough teams will be. If we take Landry, does he start? That's a good question, Kyle. I doubt it, just given their history. Now, Pettine's obviously a different coordinator, so maybe he'll go about it differently. But under McCarthy, traditionally, it's been rare where rookies have just stepped on the field week 1 and started. They've had to earn their stripes. The most obvious example to me is Clinton Dix. He was drafted. That draft was after a year in which they had some of the worst safety play in the league, and he still didn't start right away. He had to spend, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks earning his keep, so to speak, before he was put into the starting lineup. Do you think our running backs will take the year 2 jump? David, I do. I like both, especially Williams and Jones. Devontae Mays is a bit of an unknown just because he had the fumbles and pretty much was relegated to the bench there. But, I think Jones has the potential to be a star. All his playing time will be determined by what kind of jump he makes in pass protection, and that's really up to him. Terrell Pryor still available? Mark, I think I saw he signed with someone. I can't remember. That was a while ago. Maybe someone in the comments will know. How much does potential compensatory picks play into the decisions to let players leave players leave or not, I think it plays a considerable amount. It definitely did when Ted Thompson was there. Now with Gutekunst, we're going to have to chart it and find out and see if we can find tendencies or what have you. But 13 years of Ted Thompson, it certainly played a role. And it certainly played a role in who he ended up signing. One of the reasons they went after Julius Peppers when they did is because he was cut and he didn't count towards the compensatory formula. Things like that. So it's definitely taken into consideration. With Gutekunst, only time will tell how much that plays into his decision. Anthony, are we getting Dez? Lots of question marks. Who knows? I don't know yet. Pryor signed with the Jets. Thank you. Thank you very much. All seriousness, what is Raji doing now in retirement? I don't know. The last guy I knew on the beat who talked to him was Ryan Wood. And last we heard, he just, we checked in, he wasn't coming back, and that was it. So I don't really know. Is Pettine's D easier to grasp for a rookie defensive back than Dom's? One would think, but it's really hard to say. I know HaHa Clinton Dix had quoted, it's the Rex Ryan mantra, which is kind of akin to keep it simple, stupid, but is likable and learnable. It's supposed to be the mantra for this defense, for Pettine's implementation of it. So, Pettine swears that it is easy to grasp. Of course, we'll have to watch that play out and see if he really means that. Could Ridley fall to 45? Brandon, that would be a big surprise. I know he's not exactly, because he doesn't have deep speed, he's not considered like a huge star in the making or anything, and the buzz around him has been a little less than maybe top receivers in past years, but he's a route running technician. I can't imagine he lasts to 45, but you never know. Ready for Dallas traffic? I'm actually not going to Dallas for the draft. I will be in Green Bay for all of next week. So who's pumped up for Rodgers-Brady matchup? Yeah, I mean, you got to think that's probably the last time they'll face off unless they meet in the Super Bowl. So, that's one of the things that stinks about the Packers' struggles to reach the Super Bowl is how we've been kind of deprived as NFL fans of seeing, that Brady-Rodgers matchup. They've been few and far between. Let's see. Dom's defense seemed to be a bunch of scribbles on a dry erase board, especially before the snap. Let's see. Any Packers Hall of Famers announcing draft picks? I haven't seen that announced yet. I saw that the NFL put out that there are 32 fans making selections, and down there in Dallas. But I haven't seen, and I know they've done that for the last few years, where they've had Hall of Famers announce, I think, second day picks. But as far as I know, I haven't seen that announced by the NFL yet. Does the Wonderlic test help with scouting and drafting, or is it a non-factor? It's just another piece of information. And I know there's a lot of controversy around it being made, those scores being made public, and I understand that, and I understand why people, wish they wouldn't be. As a draft evaluator, you look at it, it's just a piece of information, another piece of the puzzle. As far as how predictive it is, it has very little to do with a guy's ability on the football field, his ability to even learn football, because everyone learns differently. We all know that, and the best coaching staffs are the ones who devise tactics to teach the players they have in the best ways that they learn. I mean, Seattle is famous for this, for like really getting into how guys learn and making sure their coaching staff is teaching to those players. But that said, it's something. It's a very informal guide for an evaluator to look at. You line up those Wonderlic scores and you can tell who did well and who didn't. And maybe that gives you some kind of idea of how he may struggle to process information, but it's really not anywhere near indicative of how he's going to play on the football field or how he's going to grasp, your concepts or your playbook or anything like that. Do you think it was wrong for Bruce Smith to hang around for so long to break Reggie White's sack record? No more wrong than it was for Brett Favre to take a dive for Michael Strahan. If Rodgers goes down, who would you rather have at QB, Keizer or Hundley? Keizer. If Chubb drops to 7 or 8, should we trade you for him? Yes, Victor. Will Packers honor Ezra Johnson eating hot dog on the bench during the 100th anniversary? Timothy, I truly hope so. And then they can also have a Brent Fullwood moment when he dropped the football right before he reached the goal line. Navarro Bowman, it's all quiet on that front. Hold on. Texting. People texting. Sorry. Very important information here. All right. Let's see. Hundley's garbage. Yeah. He's not very good. I wouldn't call him garbage. How's consistent this year? Thoughts? He's never been consistent his entire NFL career. And that's why I said at the beginning of the offseason they needed to move on from him and improve. I understand why they brought him back. It's veteran depth, someone they know will work like a pro and be there to help teach the younger guys. But, consistency's been his bugaboo. He'll have stretches where he plays quite well, and then he'll have long stretches where he doesn't play very well. So, if you're asking me, is he going to suddenly become consistent? I'd be very surprised. Do you live in Green Bay too? No, Charlie, I live in New York City. Why is it quiet on Navarro Bowman? Well, age and injury. Father Time is undefeated. I don't doubt he'll most likely get signed either right before the draft or after things shake out after the draft. I tend to think it's going to take an injury in camp for him to get a contract, but you never know. Receiver in round 2, Phil. I think it's a good chance. Any breaking news in that text? No, that would be my wife telling me where to meet her prior to the theater this evening. So, exciting stuff. Let's see. Who would you draft at 14, depending who drops? Talked a lot about this. I think, if by some miracle Mika Fitzpatrick dropped, I think that's probably the guy I think would help the most of all the realistic players that could be available, and I really don't think he'll be available, but if he dropped by some miracle, he's the guy I think would help the Packers the most immediately. Daniel says, so far, Brady is beating Father Time. It all comes screeching to a halt pretty soon, and in fact, I think this is the year that does it. This is the year it all fell apart for Favre, 41. If we can get any improvement on defense, this is the year. That's been kind of the book on the Packers for a long time, right? If the defense can just be middle of the pack, they have a shot at a Super Bowl. They just have to get that defense up to that level. What are you going to see? My sister-in-law is in a production of Pygmalion that we are going to see. Pack take Hughes or Alexander at 14. Whew, that's awfully rich for me personally. They may see it differently. I prefer Hughes to Alexander. That's just myself. But I can't imagine either one of those guys being in play at 14. I could be totally wrong, but that's my guesswork. How much will Pettine's scheme alone help the D? Between his scheme and his design and his ability week by week to take advantage of teams' weaknesses, I think Pettine is one of their biggest offseason acquisitions. I've been saying it all offseason since the evening he was hired. He's Rex Ryan without all the off-field nonsense. When Rex Ryan was one of the, if not the best defensive coordinator in the game. That's how highly I think of Mike Pettine. I think he's going to make a huge difference. And obviously he still needs a few pieces. They got to provide him with talent, but I do think he is going to help immensely. And on that note, I'm going to take off. Thanks so much, everyone. Sorry if I couldn't get to your question. They do fly by rather fast, but be sure you're checking PackersNews.com. We got tons of great content up. Offensive line went up yesterday. I believe defensive line is going up today. Ryan Wood's latest. Everything leading up to the draft. I got my draft buzz up. My podcast is up. Make sure you check that out. We got tons. Like I said, the season preview, the season prediction from Ryan is up. So lots for you to dive into there at PackersNews.com. Check it out. Thanks a lot, everyone. Barring any breaking news over the weekend, I'll talk to you guys Monday from Green Bay. Have a good weekend, everyone.